Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari 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 Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Padajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Padajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari and Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari and Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Mr. Bad Paramahansa Parivajikacharya Ashtotar Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivajikacharya Ashtotar Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai Ananda Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai srimadbhagavatam Ki Jai Grantharaj srimadbhagavatam Ki Jai Samaveda Bhaktabinda Ki Jai All glories to the assembled devotees All glories to the assembled devotees All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Narayana Namaskritya Narang Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jai Mudiriye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and to Narayan Rishi, the supremest human being, and to Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashta Prayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering devotional service unto the pure devotee, all that is inauspicious within the heart is destroyed almost to nil, and loving devotion to the Supreme Lord who is glorified in transcendental songs is established as an irrevocable fact. Damodar Kumar Das, can you open that door? And open this door? Thank you. Okay, before we begin, I'm going to look up something here. Okay. Okay. Get this. Alrighty. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 13th day of September 2017 in SanDiego, a reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. We are in Canto 3, the status quo, chapter 25, the glories of devotional service, and we're reading text number 39 and 40. We'll just chant text number 39. Imam lokam tathaivam atmanam hubayayinam atmanam manuyecheha ye rayak pashafo grahaha imam lokam tathaivam atmanam hubayayinam atmanam manuyecheha ye rayak pashafo grahaha imam lokam tathaivam atmanam ubayayinam atmanam manuyecheha ye raya pashafo grahaha imam lokam tathaivam atmanam hubayayinam atmanam manuyecheha ye raya pashavo grahaha imam lokam tathaivam atmanam hubayayinam atmanam manuyecheha ye raya pashavo grahaha imam lokam tathaivam atmanam ubayayinam atmanam manuyecheha ye raya pashavo grahaha imam, this, lokam, world, tatha, accordingly, eva, certainly, amum, that world, atmanam, the subtle body, ubaya, in both, ayinam, traveling, atmanam, the body, anu, in relationship with, ye, those who, cha, also, iha, in this world, ye, that which, rayaha, wealth, pashavaha, cattle, grahaha, houses. All right, this is another verse here. I'll chant it, then I'll just read the translation. Visrijya sarvan anyangscha mam evang vishvato mukham bhajantyananyaya bhaktya tan mrityor atipariye. Translation. So Lord Kapila is speaking to his mother, Devahuti. Thus, the devotee who worships me, the all-pervading Lord of the universe, in unflinching devotional service, gives up all aspirations to be promoted to heavenly planets or to become happy in this world with wealth, children, cattle, home, or anything in relationship with the body. I take him to the other side of birth and death. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Unflinching devotional service, as described in these two verses, means engaging oneself in full Krishna consciousness or devotional service, accepting the Supreme Lord as all in all. Since the Supreme Lord is all-inclusive, if anyone worships him with unflinching faith, he has automatically achieved all other opulences and performed all other duties. The Lord promises herein that he takes his devotee to the other side of birth and death. Lord Chaitanya therefore recommended that one who aspires to go beyond birth and death should have no material possessions. This means that one should not try to be happy in this world or to be promoted to the heavenly world, nor should he try for material wealth, children, houses, or cattle. How liberation is imperceptibly achieved by a pure devotee, and what the symptoms are, have been explained. For the conditioned soul, there are two statuses of living. One status is in this present life, and the other is our preparation for the next life. If I am in the mode of goodness, then I may be preparing for promotion to the higher planets. If I am in the mode of passion, then I shall remain here in a society where activity is very prominent. And if I am in the mode of ignorance, I may be degraded to animal life or a lower grade of human life. But for a devotee, there is no concern for this life or the next life, because in any life, he does not desire elevation in material prosperity or a high grade or low grade life. He prays to the Lord, "My dear Lord, it does not matter where I am born, but let me be born even as an ant in the house of a devotee." A pure devotee does not pray to the Lord for liberation from this material bondage. Actually, the pure devotee never thinks that he is fit for liberation. Considering his past life and his mischievous activities, he thinks that he is fit to be sent to the lowest regions of hell. If in this life I am trying to become a devotee, this does not mean that in my many past lives I was 100% pious. That is not possible. A devotee, therefore, is always conscious of his real position. Only by his full surrender to the Lord, by the Lord's grace, are his sufferings made shorter. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, "Surrender unto me, and I will give you protection from all kinds of sinful reaction." That is his mercy. But this does not mean that one who has surrendered to the lotus feet of the Lord has committed no misdeeds in his past life. A devotee always prays, "For my misdeeds may I be born again and again, but my only prayer is that I may not forget your service." The devotee has that much mental strength, and he prays to the Lord, "May I be born again and again, but let me be born in the home of your pure devotee, so that I may again get a chance to develop myself." A pure devotee is not anxious to elevate himself in his next birth. He has already given up that sort of hope. In any life in which one is born, as a householder or even as an animal, one must have some children, some resources, or some possessions, but a devotee is not anxious to possess anything. He is satisfied with whatever is obtainable by God's grace. He is not at all attached to improving his social status or improving the status of education of his children. He is not neglectful, he is dutiful, but he does not spend too much time on the upliftment of temporary household or social life. He fully engages in the service of the Lord. And for other affairs, he simply spares as much time as absolutely necessary. Yataham bhuyunjata. Such a pure devotee does not care for what is going to happen in the next life or in this life. He does not care even for family, children, or society. He fully engages in the service of the Lord in Krishna consciousness. It is stated in the Bhagavad Gita that without the knowledge of the devotee, the Lord arranges for his devotee to be immediately transferred to his transcendental abode just after leaving this body. After quitting his body, he does not go into the womb of another mother. The ordinary common living entity after death is transferred to the womb of another mother according to his karma or activities to take another type of body. But as far as the devotee is concerned, he is at once transferred to the spiritual world in the association of the Lord. That is the Lord's special mercy. How it is possible is explained in the following verses. Because he is all-powerful, the Lord can do anything and everything. He can excuse all sinful reactions. He can immediately transfer a person to Vaikuntha Loka. That is the inconceivable power of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is favorably disposed to the pure devotees. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance. My spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and to all members of Sri Parampara. So this is the perfect expression of what we call vairagya. Raga in its material form is what keeps us bound to this world, material desire. That's why in Bhagavad Gita we find this phrase, Vita, Raga, Bhaya, Krodha, several times expressed, beginning in the fourth chapter. Vita, Raga, Bhaya, Krodha means without material attachment, without anger, and without fear. These are symptoms of the modes of passion and ignorance, and we have to become transcendental to them. So here, Kapila Muni is describing the state of mind of the devotee who worships Krishna with unflinching devotion. In other words, a pure devotee. He gives up all aspirations to be promoted to the heavenly planets. So life moves along according to our aspirations, according to our desires. On the material plane, there's hundreds and thousands of these desires. They're stimulated constantly as we live in this world through our senses. And those who are trying to sell us things are trying to increase those desires. In effect, Maya Devi is the greatest sales lady. In other words, she is presenting one after another things that we would like to desire for our pleasure other than Krishna. Our whole sojourn in this material world is predicated on the idea of turning away from Krishna, not wanting to be his servant, wanting to compete with him. And therefore we need a world that we can pretend to be God. God is the supreme enjoyer, he's the supreme controller. Ishavashamidam sarvam, it says at the beginning of the text of the mantras of the Ishopanishad, that Lord is the supreme controller. And the Ishvara means, therefore, the enjoyer. Why control if you're not going to enjoy? So that somehow or other we became envious. Instead of wanting to love Krishna and participate in his pleasures by giving him enjoyment, we decided to compete and pretend that we're God. And we've been doing that for uncounted billions of eons. So this is describing the state of someone who's cured of that disease. That's a disease of consciousness. So how can one come to that point? That's the process of devotional service, which is the greatest yoga process. Now, Kapila Deva has already spoken several times about the power of devotional service, especially in association with others. We've heard about the process of hearing about Krishna in the association, which includes kirtan, includes sankirtan as the most potent, especially in this age. But all the other processes also are meant to awaken our original service attitude toward Krishna and purify our heart. So here he says that one who is engaged in that devotional service loses all material aspirations. We don't have to try separately. The intense process of devotional service itself gives us that vairagya. This is there right at the beginning of Bhagavatam. He has Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Payojitaha Janayat Yashu Vairagyam Jnanam Chayadahaitukam. This is right after the verse describing the supreme Dharma. Dharma is meant to bring us from a state of impurity or unhappiness to a better state. All dharmas are meant for that. But what is the supreme Dharma? What is that Dharma that Prabhu? Hare Krishna. Just not reading it during the class, the other book. Okay?
Well, no, I'm listening.
Okay. Okay. So, Savaipung Sang Paro Dharma, the supreme Dharma, is that which awakens unmotivated, uninterrupted devotional service to Krishna, who is the transcendental Lord. And what are the benefits? He said, right away, he says, Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Piya. For one who is engaged in this devotional service to Vasudeva, to Krishna, it generates, janayati, that's an easy Sanskrit word, you can remember it. Janayati means generates. Ashu, very quickly, vairagya and knowledge. Knowledge and vairagya go together. There really can't be any vairagya without knowledge. We understand theoretically that our attachments to this world are unwholesome. We have experience ourselves, even without Krishna consciousness. If we become too attached to food, which is very easy, that's another aspect of the demoniac society we live in. They engineer the food to make it addictive. Sugar, salt, and fat. You go to any of these supermarkets, there's huge aisles full of snacks and foods, processed foods that are basically full of those things. And if you eat them, they do tests, the mouthfeel, how it's going to, and this is why there's an epidemic of obesity. Even that, it's unnatural. So devotees are protected from that. You eat only prasadam. You can't just go and get some chips from the, No, it has to be prepared fresh and offered to Krishna like that. But that's a big thing, is eating for oneself. And that produces disease, it produces attachment to this world, it produces birth and death. So, how to become austere? Well, there's certain rules and regulations. We know that if we eat meat, that this is a gross sin and will be punished and suffering like anything. And we know that it's murder. Meat is murder, as that famous bumper sticker says. So we know that. So that's knowledge. But on the other side, we also have prasadam to satisfy our need for tasty food. But it's a spiritual experience. So with that, we can become fixed in vairagya, at least that far. And actually, everything in Krishna consciousness gives us the pure aspect of something that we experience in the polluted or perverted sense on the material side. Especially loving relationships. That's really the source of whatever happiness is in this material world. Mother and child, the father and child, this brother and sister, the friends, man and woman. All of these relationships make life worth living, people say, And when they're broken suddenly or damaged, it causes the greatest pain, even greater than physical pain. So that also we have to become detached from. Because that is, what did Kapila Dev say in his Sadhu Sangashtaka? He says, Mayananena bhavena bhaktim krobandeye dvidham matkate tyakta karmanas tyakta swajana bandhava. That the nature of a sadhu, a saint, is that he practices unwavering devotional service unto me with great determination, dvidham, and giving up any activity that's an impediment to him. Matkate tyakta karmanas and tyakta swajana bandhava. Even relationships with his dear friends and relatives. Because we have to set our priorities straight. And the priority is that we want to reestablish our relationship with Krishna. We know that that's the greatest imperative, both for ourselves and anyone who we can influence. So that's vairagya, that develops. As Prabhupada mentions in this long purport, that the devotee becomes indifferent even to his dear relatives. But he's not neglectful. In other words, he performs his duty. The ideal in this was Bhaktivinoda Thakur. We heard about him recently. It was his appearance day. He had a big family, and he was responsible. He had a job. But his priority was his service to Krishna. And he had this incredible schedule of, going to sleep at 8 o'clock. When did he rise? Do you remember? 10 p.m. Goes to sleep at 8 and rises at 10 p.m. And then writes for 4 hours or more. So yes, it was difficult, but this is the sign of the great acharyas. They never flinch from their service. So now this mood of how does a devotee experience the suffering? So he feels, this is a result of my sinful activity. I'm not blaming Krishna for this. It's not an accident. It's a result of my own previous activities. And tattenu kampam susamikshimano bhunjan ev atmakritam vipakam. This famous verse from Lord Brahma's prayers, that the devotee, the pure devotee, is always looking for Krishna's mercy and seeing everything as Krishna's mercy, and whatever suffering he undergoes, he sees a result of his own previous bad activities. And he continues to serve Krishna and bow down to Krishna with his whole being, with his body, mind, words, and self. That attitude buys a ticket to Goloka. To never feel indifferent to Krishna, and to never blame God or anyone else for one's suffering. That's not easy to get. So there's another prayer I wanted to share with you. I put into a poem. This is by the 4 Kumaras. Now the 4 Kumaras, this is during the pastime where they went to the gates of Vaikuntha. We heard that before, I think, in the 3rd canto, yes. And at that time, they weren't full-on devotees. They were Brahmavadis, or Brahmanandis. They preferred the impersonal, you see. And they were known as, they had jnana shakti. They were empowered with jnana, but not with bhakti yet. So they were stopped from entering Vaikuntha by Jaya and Vijay, the gatekeepers, who thought they were doing their duty. And they became furious, the 4 Kumaras. So much so that they cursed them. To take the bodies of demons, three births, and they came down as Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksha, etc. But what happened was, there's all this commotion at the gate, and Narayan came on his lotus feet, and the fragrance of his lotus feet mixed with the tulsi manjaris, the tulsi blossoms, which have their own unique flavor, unique fragrance, entered their nostrils and transformed them at that point into full-on bhaktas. And then they were mortified that they had unjustly cursed these devotees, Jai and Vijay. They condemn themselves. And this is the verse of their condemning. And it's right up in line with this purport. So they say, Kamam bhavaksa vijanayanayeshu naksyad, cheto livadhyadunate padayorameta, vachastanastalasi vadnyaditeng rishobha, puyetate gunaganaya dikarnarandra. This exactly gives the mood Prabhupada mentions in the purport. A birth in hell my sins will surely warrant. Yet please, O Lord, bestow this blessing rare, that all my thoughts, like bees drunk in the torrent of fragrance swirling round your lovely pair of lotus feet, may relish deep remembrance of your sweet pastimes, name and form so fair. That all my words, like Tulsi's leaves so tender, may glory in being offered unto you, and that my ears may ever find fulfillment in hearing of your traits and deeds anew. So this is the mood of the pure devotees, is that they condemn themselves and realize, well, all my sins and bad qualities are going to definitely bring me another birth. But my only prayer, Lord, is that it be in the home of a devotee. Even if I'm a fly on the wall, at least I'll be in that home of the devotee. This is the actual way they feel. So that's a high bar to reach, but it's something that we should strive for. So, Krishna, he's taking care in the background. This is the idea that when a devotee, you see some suffering going on, especially a pure devotee, seems to be suffering, you know that Krishna has arranged that to teach us. You can think of the Pandavas, you think of Queen Kunti. I was just reading some in the Mahabharata. How Kunti was separated from the Pandavas during the exile. And where did she live? She had to live in Hastinapur with Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra. They'd taken over the kingdom. And she was just like a lamb being cared for by the foxes. That's the way she felt. So much suffering, whole life. You know, the very name Kunti means always crying. And Krishna comes and visits, you know. But then, the amazing thing is, at the end, after the war, and Krishna's they're now installed in Hastinapur as the royal family. So she's there as the queen mother, and Yudhishthira is the king. So Krishna is staying there. He stayed a long time in Hastinapur before going back to Dwarka, and then finally he's about to leave. And one of her prayers is, Vipadak santatakshashvat tattva tattva jagadguru. What does that mean, Balaram? Yes, because by those difficulties, we will see you. And by seeing you, we will not have to see birth and death again. Bhavatu darshanam yaksatapana bhava darshanam, very nicely poetically put. So what does that mean, we will see you? They didn't see Krishna in the forest, they didn't see him, you know. But seeing him means that by the ardent prayer caused by difficulties, Krishna is present more intensely in one's heart. And you see him at that time, constantly. Feel his presence. Just like we heard yesterday, Prabhupada never felt alone. The pure devotee never feels alone. He always has Krishna by his side and in his heart. You can imagine what a value that is. You know, loneliness is endemic in the world today, in the United States. People are always on the phones with the social media, but it's not the same thing. It's not the same thing as being with somebody, and it breeds alienation and loneliness. You know, but if you're always calling out to Krishna, just like this beautiful verse in the 4th canto, Apahatasakalai Naamalatman. Apahatasakalai Naamalatman Yavidadamid at the Bhavanopahuta. Nijajana Vashagatam Atmano Yan Nasadati Chidna Raksha Rakshatami. This is Narada Muni preaching to the Prachetas, who are, I think they're about to go underwater for 10,000 years and chant his mantra, or maybe they came back, I forget. But it's the description of how the pure devotee chants. So first is that the heart is free from all material desires. That's the theme here. And Abhiratam, chanting constantly, either externally or internally, always calling upon the Lord, feeling that we need His protection at every moment, right? Because Maya is always threatening. This is the problem. We don't feel we need the protection of Krishna, but we do. Abhiratam edita bhavana upahuta. So this is what attracted me to this verse. Edita bhavana upahuta. This word upahuta means calling, inviting Krishna to come into the heart. That's what we should be feeling when we're chanting Hare Krishna in Kirtan. Calling out desperately. And how? With ever-increasing emotion. Edita bhavana bahuta. Such a devotee, Krishna comes under the control of such a devotee, and he's never separated from him, just like the sky is never separated. You're never in a place where the sky isn't overhead, is it? No. So, that acquiring that desperation for Krishna, this is what was taught by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. What is the meaning of Trinadapi Suni Chena? Tarorapi Sahishnana? To feel oneself so low and neglected and useless that our only hope is to call to Krishna and be absorbed in the holy name as our only shelter. That's actually the mood of the pure devotees. The pure devotees are thinking like that. Prabhupada they saw Prabhupada, he would come before the deities every day, and they saw him offering intense prayer. And one devotee asked him, "What are you praying for, Srila Prabhupada?" He wanted to know. Prabhupada said, "I'm praying that I don't fall into Maya." And the devotee said, "Prabhupada, you're a pure devotee, you can't fall into Maya." And Prabhupada said, "This is why I won't fall into Maya, because I'm always praying that way." So that's the nature here. All right, let's read another verse. Nanyatra mad bhagavata pradana purusheshwarat atmanak savabhutanam bhayam tivram nivartate. The terrible fear of birth and death can never be forsaken by anyone who resorts to any shelter other than myself. For I am the Almighty Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the original source of all creation, and also the Supreme Soul of all souls. It is indicated herein that the cycle of birth and death can't be stopped unless one is a pure devotee of the Supreme Lord. It is said, Haring vinanam hritim taranti. One cannot surpass the cycle of birth and death unless one is favored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The same concept is confirmed herewith. One may take to the system of understanding the absolute truth by one's own imperfect sensory speculation, or one may try to realize the self by the mystic yoga process. But whatever one may do, unless he comes to the point of surrendering to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, no process can give him liberation. One may ask if this means that those who are undergoing so much penance and austerity by strictly following the rules and regulations are endeavoring in vain. The answer is given in Bhagavatam. The basic answer is yes. 10.232, Ye Aravindaksha Vimuktamanina. Lord Brahma and other demigods prayed to the Lord when Krishna was in the womb of Devaki. My dear lotus-eyed Lord, there are persons who are puffed up with the thought that they have become liberated, or one with God, or have become God. But in spite of thinking in such a puffed up way, their intelligence is not laudable. They are less intelligent. It's stated that their intelligence, whether high or low, is not even purified. In purified intelligence, a living entity cannot think otherwise than to surrender. The Bhagavad Gita, therefore, confirms that purified intelligence arises in the person of a very wise man. Bahunam janmanam ante jnanavan mam prapadyate. After many, many births, one who is actually advanced in intelligence surrenders unto the Supreme Lord. Without the surrendering process, one cannot achieve liberation. The Bhagavatam says, quote, those who are simply puffed up, thinking themselves liberated by some non-devotional process, are not polished or clear in intelligence, for they have not yet surrendered unto you, in spite of executing all kinds of austerities and penances, or even arriving at the brink of spiritual realization, in Brahman realization. They think that they are in the effulgence of Brahman, but actually, because they have no transcendental activities, they fall down to material activities. Close quote. One should not be satisfied simply with knowing that one is Brahman. He must engage himself in the service of the Supreme Brahman. That is bhakti. The engagement of Brahman should be the service of Para-Brahman. It is said that unless one becomes Brahman, one cannot serve Brahman. The Supreme Brahman is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the living entity is also Brahman, without realizing that he is Brahman or Spirit Soul, an eternal servitor of the Lord. If one simply thinks that he is Brahman, his realization is only theoretical. He has to realize and at the same time engage himself in the devotional service of the Lord. Then he can exist in the Brahman status. Otherwise, he falls down. The Bhagavatam says that because non-devotees neglect the transcendental loving service of the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead, their intelligence is not sufficient, and therefore these persons fall down. The living entity must have some activity. If he doesn't engage in the activity of transcendental service, he must fall down to material activity. As soon as one falls down to material activity, there is no rescue from the cycle of birth and death. It is stated here by Lord Kapila, without my mercy, nanyatra mad bhagavata. The Lord is stated, without my mercy. The Lord is stated here to be Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, indicating that He is full of all opulences and is therefore perfectly competent to deliver one from the cycle of birth and death. He is also called Pradhan because He is the Supreme. He is equal to everyone, but to one who surrenders to Him, He is especially favorable. It is also confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita that the Lord is equal to everyone. No one is His enemy and no one is His friend. But to one who surrenders unto Him, He is especially inclined. By the grace of the Lord, simply by surrendering unto Him, one can get out of this cycle of birth and death. Otherwise, one may go on in many lives, and may many times attempt other processes for liberation. So we'll begin tomorrow on text 42. Any questions? Comments?
You mentioned priority earlier.
Prioritizing. Yeah.
So sometimes devotees, they quote certain things. Oh, what is the devotee's priority?
Mm-hmm.
Certain statements. So I guess I'm asking you, if you were to tell us what should be our priorities, at least for brahmacharis, what should be our priorities, like our first priority, actually.
Well, the idea was that first of all you have to set your priority in your own mind. There has to be a goal, and that's based on your understanding. So first you have to hear. Hearing is always the first thing. You have to hear and read and hear, and develop some faith that Krishna is God, I'm His servant, and the process known as bhakti, and I have to do that process. Otherwise, if that doesn't happen, then you're not on any firm status. It's sentimental. So once you come to that conclusion and you want to take the process seriously, then the priority is to take instruction from the higher source. The whole thing depends on, everything depends on the flow of authority, which comes originally from Krishna down through the disciplic succession all the way to Prabhupada and Prabhupada's representatives. And that's how the flow works. And when we accept that authority in our lives, then we mold our lives according to the instructions. And Prabhupada has given us morning program, rising early, bathing, coming to Mangalartik. I made up a new word. Did you know I made up a new word? How does it go? Yeah. Mantu Jagri Gukla. Mangalartik, Tulsi worship, japa, greeting, Guru Puj, and class. Mantu Jagri Gukla. So that should be our focus. Every one of those programs is important. If we miss one, then we're damaged. Then the greeting of the deities. Because I go way back. I remember when everyone was there. They wanted to be there. We used to sing the name of the deities, and then the conch would blow and would open, and everyone would bow down. Haribol. Krishna's there, right? The understanding is He's there on the altar. He's not just a statue. So, just imagine Lord Chaitanya walks through the door with Nityananda helping us, through this door. Would we be doing something else? He says, I got to do something. Everyone would be rushing to the Lord Chaitanya's here. So that's the mood, and of course you have to cultivate that because we're materially conditioned. That's where the regulation comes in. So that the whole thing in brahmacharya life, it's a tremendous opportunity. We're not encumbered by all of the attachments. That's the great advantage. As soon as you get encumbered by material things, then there's all of this distraction. But we have the opportunity to really become focused and to make serious advances. But it means prioritizing the process of devotional service, the morning program, the sadhana bhakti in all of its glory. And when we can get regulated, it's just a question of acclimation. We condition to material things, material ways of thought and action. We can also become habituated, through a good sense, with the things that will make us strong in devotional service. And then that becomes your engine. With a strong morning program, then you're in this, your service mood is at its height, and you continue during the day with that mood, chanting Hare Krishna as far as possible, and serving. That should be the focus of our life. What else can I say? Any other question, comment?
Can you read the first part again? You said something about the terrible fear.
Yeah. Of this the last verse I read. Yeah. Long purports here. The translation is, the terrible fear of birth and death can never be forsaken by anyone who resorts to any shelter other than myself. For I am the Almighty Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The problem is we're not afraid of it. We're kind of going along in a fog. But that's actually present for everybody. And every now and then, it becomes very prominent. There's a huge hurricane with some biblical flood, and suddenly death is at your doorstep. It's always been there. But people don't realize it. They get illusioned, by Maya. And then we're good. Everything is good. It's not good. You're living next to a petrochemical plant that is spewing poisons and poisoning you. And when the rains come, it comes into your living room. You can't have no water to drink. You're barely saving from being drowned. That's the fear of birth and death. Now, in a place like India, it's or a more primitive country, it's much more in your face. I remember I was going around Radhakund, and there was a guy dying on the road there. Yeah, he was living in Radhakund. He was a sadhu, but he was actually practically expiring. We wanted to walk around him. The thing is, the whole purpose, when Maya is very strong, these high-tech societies hide it away. Put it in the hospital, put it away, so you don't have to think. They built this beautiful building over here, Catty Corner. It took them 2 years at least, I think. Remember, the place was cleared for a long time. This is all for old people. It's an old folks home, high end. It's at least 2,000 a month there. And what is that? Well, okay. We have to take care of old people, but really, it should be, they should be over here, getting prepared to leave the body, and not over there playing checkers or whatever they're doing. The thing is, there's no knowledge, and all of this effort is put into trying to make you forget the reality, which is that your body is fragile. You're going to leave it, and you don't know where you're going. There's all of these other animals out there you don't even realize. So the foundation of this illusory society is ignorance, and the foundation of progress and good fortune is knowledge. That's why that Gita is so important, and all the books that Prabhupada gave us. On the basis of knowledge, you change your life. You change the direction of your life. But it requires willpower, because the lower self is all accustomed to these other habits. So it's a question of discipline. That's what the meaning of disciple is. Arjuna was a perfect example. Sanatana Goswami, we have so many perfect examples. Karpanidosho pahatasvabhava prachami dharma samudacheta yakshe yaksyan nishtitam druhitan me shishyasteham shadiman tvam papanna. The word papanna means surrender. What do you surrender? You surrender your will. So he says, my dear Lord, I've been arguing with you in the first chapter about what's right. I don't want to fight this battle. All my friends are on the other side, my grandfather, my teacher. I don't want to kill them. What should I fight for a kingdom? He's looking at, from the material point, the kingdom is useless as a kingdom because it's soaked with the blood of the people he loves. So I'll go to the forest, forget about this.